Hello, and welcome to Sproutlogic Gardening. My name's Mike, and today we continue our mini series, Winter Garden Planning. So, for today's episode, it's all about turning observations into a garden layout. Now, there's a couple ways that this can be done, but of course, I think we need to recap what we talked about in the previous episode really quickly. So, we talked about things such as the sun's movement across your garden and what that does when it comes to shade or providing more full sun depending on the location of your garden. We talked about what type of soil you have and how that can affect obviously where you plant things and what you use. We also talked about different things you have placed in your garden. It could be a porch or maybe some sort of electrical lining that's run through there. It's important to note the locations of stuff like that. So, with all that in mind, now the next step, of course, is to figure out a plan. What do we do? And let's get a layout for our garden. So, what you're looking at here on the screen, this is from Grow Veg. This is the garden planner that they currently have out. And I'll go ahead and pop up on the screen the subscription packages that they have available to use this. Quick disclaimer, I am not affiliated with them. I don't get any kickbacks for any of this. I just chose to use this. Personally, for me, when it comes to planning, I'm a very visual person, and this is a great tool to get it accomplished. They have all kinds of different things built into it. You can add notes, little reminders, planning. As you see right here, it has articles to help you out, links to videos, journals, weather. I mean, if you name it, it's almost built in here for the most part. So, and they have a great support team available to help you out. So, something important to kind of know, you don't have to use this app. This could be done via, a piece of paper and pen, frankly. You could do that. You could use an Excel spreadsheet. It's whatever works for you as long as we're doing this as part of the planning process. All right. So, with that out of the way, let's get started here. So I'm going to open up a current garden that I have planned out here, which is my own. This is short meadow, kind of blank on a piece of paper, and I'm going to zoom out. So a little couple notes about my garden. Number one, it's about 70 feet long by 50 feet wide, and just to kind of lay out the some more information, such as like the sun. My garden is actually east facing, so on the bottom here, we'll count that as west. The top is east, left is north, right is south. And if you had watched my previous video, you'd kind of understand the layout, what that looks like. And hopefully you've done the same for your garden. When you first build your garden out, you want to be as accurate as possible. So try to measure out how long it is and make sure you put that into the format. If you're using this, if you're using grid paper or you're doing it in pen and paper, it is important to probably write down the measurements so you can keep track of that. So I think one of the first things we're going to need to do here is set up boundaries. So we kind of see the outer boundary of the garden. We also have to place objects that are currently in there that affect what happens. So I'm going to go ahead and jump over to add a shape. And I'm going to choose to add a square. And we should do a fill. And I'm going to go ahead and put the porch I have back there. This is going to be important because this has an effect on the garden's layout overall. So I know that this brown square represents the porch I have back there. That's kind of phase one. You'll be doing the same. Do you have a porch? Do you have a pergola? Do you have something back there, a swing? You want to make sure you put that in your garden layout because we have to take into account that that's going to be part of this plan. Of course, other things need to be taken into account. If you have pathways, and what's great about this planner is it has the ability to add paths, you can add these in automatically and kind of lay them throughout your garden. So for me, I do not have any paths currently formally placed. But if I was setting up a new garden, I'd want to take a step back and look and say, okay, well, I need to take these into account. Do I want to add them? Do I not? If I don't, okay, next step's going to be where do I want to place beds or potted plants or things like that. If I do, it's better to get that figured out now so your beds can be placed around that. So you know the movement through your garden, where your wheelbarrow will go, and you'll be able to walk and kind of carry through the garden. So for my case here, I'm not going to add that in here. I don't have any of those, so no worries there. What I do have is some raised beds that are currently placed, and you would have seen that in the previous video as well. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose a narrow raised bed scalable because I have a couple to place, and it's approximately, well, actually, I think when I look at my garden, I want to actually reduce this a little bit. I think this can come down just a pinch. I don't think it's as big. So there we go. Now, with this particular tool, you can actually set the exact measurements. Now, I didn't measure my porch, so I'm not going to be 100% on this, and I'm going to do a little bit of a guesstimate when it comes to the raised beds. But at this point, I know I have a couple over here. So this one right here, roughly about 3 feet long. I think it's actually about a foot wide. So I'm going to go ahead and place that one bed. I have another one, and what's cool about this tool as well, I can control C, so copy and paste, I know I have another bed approximately right about here. And then I have a plastic bed that I'm going to place. So it's important to get these things placed so you know what you currently have to work with. Now, if you're planning from the ground up, this is an exciting time. You're doing the complete ground up build, place things wherever you think you want them. If you're like me and you're just kind of planning for the year ahead, I have to work with what I got. So I want to go ahead and make sure that I get that taken care of accordingly. Let's see here. Other raised beds. What else we got here? We got a wood raised bed. We know I have that new raised bed that I plan on doing roses up here with. So, and if you're looking at these measurements, I realize they're kind of hilariously long or wrong. I get that. You could be as accurate as you want. I do recommend to try to be as accurate as you can. For my case, I'm just doing a demonstration, so I'm showing you all what it looks like. And I'm going to place some other beds I have as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and show you something else here. So you're able to place pots as well. So any kind of potting and things. So containers. I have a couple container plants I want to address. I have a buddleia that goes here. Then I have a hydrangea over here on the southern side of my garden. Rough layout. So next steps, if you're currently dealing with a space you've worked with in the past and there's some things you're not going to move around, do you have any irrigation? And that's important to kind of call out and mention. So the nice thing about this planner as well is it has the ability to lay out your irrigation if you have that in your garden here. So let me take a look and find the irrigation parts. So you can get as fancy as you want, and I recommend if you're using this tool, please get fancy. For the sake of time, I'm not going to go ahead and demonstrate this, but I would lay down the tubing, which I have that starts about here for my irrigation. At a minimum, I will put down my emitters that I currently have. So I want to make sure that they are notated. And most of my beds have two. Kind of spread out the water load. This one up here has three. The one in the middle actually has no emitter, so I don't have any irrigation run to that. That is hand watered. And that hydrangea pot is also hand watered as well. So these are things we're just notating, right? We're still kind of working on it. If you're planning a new garden, you're going to want to see where do you want to run these lines, how much line will you need, what kind of emitters. You want to really make sure you take time to plan this out accordingly so you avoid any kind of mistakes or issues later on down the line. Like, for example, one of my biggest mistakes I think I made was placing this raised bed here in the middle. To be honest, I should have probably put it up top and it had part of the irrigation system. But you know what? I'm going to leave it. I'm going to roll with it. It gives me another reason to go out and water and kind of walk around the plants, and I like it. So there's no worries there. So the next part of this journey, for me at least, is going to be I have some things that are planted like a tree, for example. I need to make sure I put that in here. So I'm going to drag that over here. Now you're going to notice something kind of right off the bat, and actually I need to put an emitter for that one as well. But you'll notice this kind of circle emulating from or coming out of this plant that I put down. And that's kind of a maximum grow length that it'll get to, but also the shade it could cast. So knowing this, my tree isn't fully grown. It's only like a year and a half, 2 years old. So you'll see that once it gets fully grown, I'm going to be casting shade on this bed over here. I'm going to also add something else because I have a wildflower bed. And I'm just going to use the generic flower to kind of notate that. So I'll drag it out a little bit here, and then we'll expand it out. And I can go ahead and actually, in this tool, label it accordingly. So this is a generic label for flowers. Some of the stuff they have a lot of different types of plants in here with varieties, by the way, that are kind of built out and ready to go. If they don't have what you want, you can simply create a custom label, which is great. So wildflower, I'm going to call it bed. Yep, it's already saved in the system. And so I'll have that kind of notated there. So at this point, what we're looking at is what I currently have to work with, right? And this is where if I have an existing garden and I want to move things around, I could start using this tool to do that. So I want to go ahead, if for example, if I really did want to go ahead and move that, I could drag it up here for the future plan. Maybe move an emitter over there, one or two, or add an additional one to help out. Of course, I won't do that in this case, but that's why this is kind of important to mention when we're talking about our plan. I'm going to take another step back, and since we have the layout of my garden figured out and ready to go, let's talk about sun levels again, just quickly revisiting that. I know the north part of my garden here, and actually arguably this bed here, because the side of the house kind of comes up along here, will get a lot of sun. So this will get full sun, these beds right over here. These beds kind of in the middle and the side and the peach tree and the wildflower bed will arguably get morning sun, some early afternoon sun. Maybe during the summer you could argue it's full sun levels, but for the most part it's probably more closer to partial sun. And then this one right here on the southern side of my garden, I know is shade, partial shade, which is intentional. I want to make sure I have that there. So we're taking a look. We're thinking about this, going, okay, if I'm going to add new beds, where would I add them? Do things need full sun? Do they need partial sun? How do I kind of make sure that happens throughout the layout of my garden? Of course, that's the idea behind this. We want to make sure we're taking that into account. So we're not ready to talk about plants yet, and that's going to be something exciting we kind of dive into the next episode. And that's something I want to talk about. You're noticing that I'm not putting down what I have or what I'm going to plant. The only things I'm putting down that I absolutely need to put down is like the peach tree and the wildflower bed, because I know that those things aren't moving and aren't changing anytime soon. They're going to be there. That's going to be a solid set in the garden. And it's going to be the same for you. We're just working on the layout. We're just working on the map and the plan of where to begin and what to work with. Next, on the next episode we have coming up, we're going to be talking about, what kind of plants we want to put down and kind of continue to formalize this plan even further. So definitely check it out in the next episode. And again, I'll leave one kind of final statement with this planner. You don't have to use it. I do recommend it. It is extremely helpful, and it has a lot of tons of amazing data, frankly. I mean, I'm able to look at things, and like I showed you before, if I click on this peach tree, for example, I can choose varieties and add custom varieties if I want. They give you planting times, companion plants, spacing. I mean, the amount of information you get in here saves you a ton of time versus what we'd have to do typically when it comes to planning things out. So hopefully this helps. Let me know if you have any questions. Drop a comment below. And please like and subscribe if you're enjoying this content. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take it easy.